Hey, it's Kimberly and welcome back to my channel. I make videos on all things lifestyle on a budget, and today we're going to be talking about exfoliants and acids and which ones to use. For exfoliants, meaning the physical or mechanical ones versus the chemical ones, and I'll be using the Ordinary as my example since that's the ones I've been using for the past year. Let's get into it. Before we get into all the different types of acids and figuring out how to distinguish which one is better than the other or which one is for you, here's how I came upon the conclusion that I needed to rethink what I was doing. So if you watch my most recent video from The Ordinary when I said here's how I'm doing after 1 year, I said I was going to be using a new product right here, the Cure, which is the brightening facial scrub. I was really excited to try it out, and I mentioned that the little grains that you feel for the exfoliant were kind of a shocker to use again since I hadn't been using that. I've just been using chemical exfoliants for the past year. Well, after I'd say a couple days, I realized I was looking at my skin and I felt like I suddenly had all of these bumps, and I was like, what is this from? And I would poke it and something would come out like a little grain. And I realized, so I have very large pores, and what was happening to me is that these little seeds, these little grains were getting stuck into my face. And I'll do a close-up later on in the video so that you can see what I'm talking about. But basically, I just suddenly had these little bumps around my face after I would use this cleanser. When I would pop it, they would come out, and I realized that that's just my pore, and my pore was getting clogged by these grains. So I was like, okay, we cannot use this anymore, which is such a shame because this is really great. I liked how gentle seeming it was to me. I use this now just to exfoliate my biggest bikini zone and stuff like that, or my body instead. So that's how you can at least reproduce it. So if you have this as well and you're noticing that you're getting little bumps, it's probably because of the grains in this. So I can't recommend this for myself or anyone that has this situation, but I did find another use for it. So from that, I realized, well, what do I do now? Do I suddenly need an exfoliant, a chemical one? Let me figure out and look it up. And I was almost about to go back to buying the AHA, BHA one. I was doing all this research, and I realized in my research that I already am using an exfoliant, and it was lactic acid. Difference between the chemical and the physical or the mechanical ones is that those are right on the surface of the skin, and so you're using those grains to exfoliate and take off all of the top layer that's dirt and grossness and clogging up the pores and all that kind of stuff. So that's the top layer. The chemical ones are able to penetrate deeper depending on the size of the molecule that they have. So follow me on this journey. The bigger, larger the molecule, the less it can get deeper into your skin. The smaller the type of molecule, the further it can get deeper into your skin. Basically, there are two types, well, there's actually three types, but the two types of the acids are AHAs and BHAs. So alpha hydroxy acids and beta hydroxy acids. There's also polyhydroxy acids, but I'm not even going to get into that because I didn't feel like that had enough information on the typical kinds that we're all using. So we'll just go between the AHAs and the BHAs. The BHA ones are the ones like salicylic acid, which is good for acne and blemishes, and that's kind of the one you always see for anything that's acne and blemish related. Now the AHAs are the ones that I feel kind of came into play in this last couple years or so that everyone's been focusing on. Going further, the different types of alpha hydroxy acids that we're using are the glycolic one, mandelic, and lactic acid. Let's just start with those just to take an ease. So the glycolic one is actually really small, and that's the one that can go the deepest into your skin. It would be the one that is stronger because it can go deeper. The lactic acid is a larger one, so it cannot go as far deep into your skin. It can still go in, but it can't go as far, and that's why most people suggest that one is the sensitive skin one, because it's not going to go as deep and be as dramatic, but it is still very useful. So when I realized that, I was like, oh, I'm already using an exfoliant, so there's no need for me to run out and get another acid or exfoliator thinking that I didn't have one, because I actually already had one. in the AHA BHA one, the one that I absolutely love, it's the peeling solution that is the greatest. The reason why I think it's so great is realizing that it has 3 different types of acids in it. It has the glycolic one, it has the lactic acid one, and it has the salicylic. So that's why it says it's AHA and BHA. So that one has like kind of like a trifecta, and I'm still wondering if maybe I will go back to that one actually once I'm done with my lactic acid, just because it was so great and it's handling all the things that I feel like I actually need. It's gentle exfoliation to the skin, the BHAs for my blemishes, and being able to dive deeper into my skin for rejuvenation and all that kind of stuff. And most of the articles that I was reading were suggesting that where you would start would be like for the salicylic BHA world, it'd be 1 to 2%. And then for the AHA world, it would be from 8 to 10%. But I'm not prescribing anyone anything in this. I'm just giving information. So you should already know that, but I'm not telling you to go and seek these exact things. I'm just saying this is the information that I found online, and also will be in the description box down below for further research for yourself. But this is just arming you with information so that when you are shopping for things, you have a better idea. But it really has helped me so much. And again, this is a year later after using my stuff from The Ordinary, so armed with even more information, I'm realizing like, oh, these are the types of things that I need now. I have less of the active acne, but I do have scars. I do still feel like I have a little bit of an uneven skin tone, like kind of. So what would I be wanting to use going forward? There is a link in the description box to an article that I felt like gave a really good kind of breakdown. And they also had a chart. The chart that I thought was pretty helpful because it kind of broke down like scarring, acne, aging, sunspots, all that kind of stuff. And it would tell you a bunch of different acids. And so I'm only touching on the first main ones, like I said, glycolic, lactic acid, salicylic acid. So again, to summarize very simply, the AHAs are good for cell turnover, going deeper into the skin. Glycolic goes the furthest, smaller. Lactic acid doesn't go as far. It's great for sensitive skin, but it is still effective. Don't think just because it's not going as far that it's not effective. It actually is, and you can see in my face. Actually, here it is right here, and I only have about this much left. This one has been really good, and this is 10%. So again, that 8 to 10% was suggested as like a good starting point, and I am not suggesting that to anyone else. I'm just saying that this is where I'm at. For the physical exfoliant, like some people out there may not have this experience at all. I just thought it was bizarre. It's kind of actually how I find what my open pores are, because I'll see it and be like, I squeezed like 2 of them out last night, so you won't even see it, but there's one right around here that it kind of always happens, and then there's one like on my forehead, but then there were a couple a little around, and I was just like, what is that? And now obviously I'm not going to the nearest dermatologist to have it extracted, but from what I did, and I don't recommend to other people, but what I did was that it was close enough to the surface that I was able to poke it and it like came right out. So that's how I could tell that it was different than me having like the small comedones, because those are like under the skin and I don't think you can get them out that easily. So the fact that this was like right on the surface and I was able to get that out was great. Now going forward, it's like once I finish the lactic acid, I think I might either go back to the AHA BHA one, or I might look into the alpha arbutin again. And then I kind of looked at some of the other ones that were out there that I already have, like niacinamide is a B complex. That's not an acid, but that one is really good for reduction for acne and like better skin tone, etc., etc. And remember, I'm using my one from the Dr. Dennis Gross Skincare, like the B complex stress line, and that one's been really helping. I only have like a teeny bit left on that, and I'm gonna go back to my niacinamide zinc after and finish that up. So that was in the same world, and like I said, I wasn't going to use the same thing at the same time. That's pretty much everything. That is my quick little video. I hope it's helpful to anyone that just wants to understand more of what they're trying to purchase. It can be very overwhelming. I was like, AHAs, BHAs, I don't understand. And now let's get into my face. So we're going to get up and close and we'll see where we're at. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. There's one right here that I need to pop. There was one over in this area that I popped last night and it was glorious. There was one up here. You could see sometimes though I've like pushed it out and then got a scar. So yeah, that happens. Here's where my skin is. There were some down here. Oh, here's one. I can feel it. So I want to get rid of that. And then I think there was one. Oh, I feel it right here. One right here. Gotta get rid of that. Always one right in this area. Large pores for the win. All right, I thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.